Look who decided to grace us with her presence.
I know. The voice behind the theme song.
Yeah, can we get that right on the mic there? Oh. So don't I look fly tonight? Normally we don't have gigs on Mondays.
We normally don't.
I've been looking cooler than you have.
You have been.
I wasn't supposed to say that.
You've been killing me. You've also been saying for all intensive purposes, which is so embarrassing. See, you say something about me, I'm going to say something about you.
I do not say for all intensive purposes.
You've never said that.
I would never say that.
I was just trying to insult you because I was hurt.
Anyway, yeah. We had a gig on a Monday afternoon. So this is what I wore to the gig tonight. Yeah. So before we start this podcast is sponsored by Performance High Voice and Music Studio and by Zenni. This is where I got my glasses. Zenni.com, Zenni. These are not some like $10 thrift store sunglasses. These are prescription progressive sunglasses.
Yeah.
With purple fade on them and green on the bottom. And I picked all of that. They have a million options. And it's so cool because you can take a picture of yourself and like align your face with, their guidelines. And then you can try on glasses on their website to see how they look on you. And these were $100.
Yeah, and that's with all the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the best. So, and my regular glasses also that I always wear are also from Zenni, about $100 also.
So Zenni.com.
Zenni.com, yeah. I got these so I could read charts on stage and not look like a nerd.
Yeah, which you have not been. You've been killing it. Sorry for the intensive purposes. Lie. Fiction.
I don't use malapropisms.
Yeah, you don't. You speak very well.
We respect each other very highly because we both speak proper English, mostly.
More or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
You're better than me. I don't know. We're all over the place.
So, we had a gig tonight this afternoon, with Cody Qualls and the Brand New Ancients in it's not the same exact facility where his mom lived for a while, but it's like the same group of facilities. She was in the memory care place, and we were in not exact that same place. But so it was a really meaningful gig for that reason. Mm-hmm. Definitely a different context or like a different vibe than what we're used to. Some of the people, it's a small crowd, but they really enjoyed it. And it was, some people were giving us good feedback, and other people, as some people get when they get really old, like they're not really that much there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who knows how much they were hearing, but all very meaningful. And the thing I observed when we left that gig, which is completely unrelated to the context, was I am finally stopping being self-conscious about being a female bass player.
Which I was shocked by, because you're usually the ultimate, like...
I don't
have those...
I don't have those kinds of feelings, like...
Very often.
An insecurity or an awareness about being a female in a male space. But, I mean, I haven't talked about it because I just don't... I don't pay that much attention to it. Mm-hmm. But it's... until pretty recently, I've always shown up, and not that I've been less confident about my role, but I'm aware that some new sound person who sees a girl walk in and then sees her walk in with her bass amp might be going, "Ooh." And it's just an awareness that people think differently. And it hasn't changed how I've done anything. But tonight, and I think the last gig, were the first couple of times that it stopped occurring to me that anyone might think differently of me because I'm a girl bass player. Yeah. And that was pretty cool. It's the same way that I come into band rehearsals or the way I used to work in IT once I was comfortable with my team. Like, I'm just another human doing my job. Right. And I don't feel insecure about it. I'm just aware that some people think differently about me. Right. Anyway, that was
yeah. No, and to be fair, I mean, I guess there's another layer, because very often you're more or less in charge of the situation. Yeah. It's been a lot of your band and showcase stuff, and, you may not be in charge of petty nicks, but you're also not, bass player Which, by the way, bass player, total double-edged sword, because you are normally, there are bass players who are band leaders for sure, but bass players are often, usually just, they're just there to play.
Yeah.
At the same time, bass is sort of right up there with drums as the most important thing. Like, there's no messing around on bass. I mean, I can be garbage on guitar. No one's going to tell. On bass, like, you really hear something's wrong. Yeah, so it's well, that's great to hear that you're feeling that way, because you should feel great about...
I should have been feeling this way for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But it's finally...
Well, I mean, all those pressures and cliches and whatever else are very real. I mean, they really do exist,
I mean, even, especially maybe as a singer.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm walking in with more cred because I'm walking in with an instrument than when I walk in as a singer. Oh, the girl singer, we've mentioned on previous episodes, like, some rude sound guys who talk to me about how to use my gear because I'm a singer. I must not know how to use my own in-ears that I've been using for 12 years or however long. So maybe, I don't know, whatever. I'm not even sure there's that much to mine in this conversation. It was just an observation I had tonight.
Yeah.
When we left.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to just say, even if you are feeling that way, it's possible to get past. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the better way to go, is to keep showing up and get past it rather than quitting or being afraid to try doing it.
Yeah.
And,
a lot of times I may have been, all of that may have been entirely in my head.
Yeah, that can happen too. That's not just a music thing. That's a life thing. I mean, there's always, you feel like weird in situations.
And you're the only one you're assuming that other people are looking at you and thinking a certain thing, and nobody's paying that much attention to you.
Yeah.
It's all in your head.
Yeah.
I think that's true of a lot of things. So we had 2 Cody gigs.
2 Cody gigs?
Since last podcast. We had the one tonight, and we had one, was it last Friday? Yeah, it was Friday.
Where was that? I'm sorry. I've got a cat on my lap.
I can't remember.
I literally can't remember. Yeah, we can think of this.
It's the 70th birthday party. It was at E-Town Hall.
It was at How did we forget E-Town Hall in Boulder?
I know.
Marvelous facility. E-Town Hall is a very popular radio show where they do mainly like bluegrassy, folky, acoustic music. And they had been producing the radio show at different theaters around town, but then they converted this.
I think it was all at Boulder Theater.
It might have been. Okay. Yeah. But they so E-Town Hall is the new home of marvelous venue. Steve, the sound guy, was a real treat.
Yeah, he was great.
He was great. He was apparently the head sound guy at Boulder for 20 years or something until he moved over. They took him, so I guess they were.
Okay. Yeah, it was a 70th birthday party, so it was like a lot of family and friends and multiple generations. The kids had a lot of fun dancing. Then Cody's music is so kid-friendly. Kids just love to dance.
They really do.
I guess ours is too, right? The Petty Nick stuff.
Gosh, that's funny. Kids are really a theme.
The birthday girl got up and sang 2 or 3 songs with us.
Right.
She had a lot of talent. She had a great voice. And her friends rewrote the lyrics to a Beatles song and sang that to her.
Oh, yeah, right.
And that was cute. So touching.
Brian and Greg and I all walked over to Illegal Pete's, which is a burrito shop, and just had a nice leisurely dinner. Another sponsor of the podcast.
Yeah. How much money are our sponsors giving us?
They're not aware they're They're not aware yet.
Right.
Yeah.
I think very highly of Illegal Pete's. First of all, because it's good stuff. And second, we played at an Illegal Pete's on our tour. Our Southwestern tour.
You know what? We totally did. I forgot all about that. There's that really big one on University of Arizona's campus.
Yeah.
In Tucson.
Yeah. So
Tucson?
Yeah, it was in Tucson. So Illegal Pete's is a big supportive local music.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciated them giving us a place to play.
Yeah, I mean they have like a real concert venue in that one in Arizona. Like that was not a
there's a stage.
Yeah, it wasn't corner of a burrito shop. The one in Boulder's small, but gigs.
I went to see Florence and the Machine.
Right.
And Ethel Cain. So the opener was Ethel Cain, and I saw most of the show. most of Ethel's set. So Ethel Cain is from Tallahassee.
Ethel Cain, as we found out, is from Tallahassee. Not anyone I know.
Yeah.
Apparently grew up in Perry, which...
Is that a little town?
It's a real little town, and a trans person, as it turns out, which growing up in Perry must have been real fun. Came to, and as I texted you when you were at the show, that's impressive. I mean, going from Tallahassee to opening for Florence the Machine, that's a long way.
Yeah.
You know, Tallahassee's a much bigger town than it was when I lived there 20 years ago or whatever. But still, that's a long way.
And reading her bio, she's only been doing this for a few years. Like,
very young.
Like less than 5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's 25 or something.
Yeah.
You said it was great.
Yeah, and it was fascinating because the difference between Ethel Cain and Florence the Machine, in certain ways, they could not have been more different in the way they use the stage.
Right.
They're very similar in like the emotional content of this of the music. Like I could really see how that she was a great opener for Florence. But the thing that struck me with Ethel is, well, as an opener, there was no stage design whatsoever. There was a black curtain behind her. She was wearing a white skirt that went down to mid calf. So, like, kind of, in my opinion, the least attractive length of skirt that exists.
Right, a weird bisection.
Yeah. No shoes, so barefoot. And then a long, baggy white sweater that was, like, tucked in one spot, you know, the way the kids do it now. And so it was like this baggy... It was Angel standing on stage.
Yeah.
Right in front of the mic. And the drummer was off the stage to her left. The guitarist was off the stage to her right. So like you could see them, but they weren't ever lit up. It was nothing but this white figure in front of a black background. So occasionally some lights like patterning on the floor, but that was about it. And she did not walk anywhere. She didn't like jump up and down. She didn't make any big hand motions. It was the most understated performance that was effective that I've ever seen. And
I watched a bunch of videos after you mentioned, you know, not the same night, but then since you mentioned it, and that seems to be very normal. That seems to be what the show is. From videos that are on YouTube.
It's so like anti-artifice. These are my songs. This is how I sing these songs. That's it.
We talked about this recently. I mean, that was as big of a production as it was, and as crazy as the lights were. That was very much how War on Drugs were. We're not trying to put on a show here. We're just enjoying.
Yeah.
What we're doing.
Let the music stand on its own. We're just doing,
basically, which is valid. I mean, you know, it's not necessarily what we do most of the time, but it's absolutely valid. I mean, we talk about so many performance things and et cetera, and gosh, I bet set list matters even more if you're just going to like put the songs out and let them stand. But at the same time, it's fine to do that. You know, it was just it kind of broke my brain because it looked very much like a nervous student who'd never wanted to get off the mic, who would either be doing this, or if she took one step to the side, she'd still be holding on to the mic stand. And no performance other than one or two times raising her hand. And so I was like, but this doesn't look like a nervous student. Right. Somehow she's commanding. Maybe it's because she doesn't give a shit. She's like, I'm singing these songs. I love these songs. Pretty sure you're going to love them too, but I'm not going to convince you. I'm just going to give them to you, and you can do what you want with them. And the stadium loved her. The arena loved her. I mean, huge applause. Right, because it was the same room we saw the Killers in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked over you. Did you have something you were going to say?
No. I was just going to point out, of course, I'm not like the arbiter of what's okay.
Right.
But it is true that, you know, it doesn't... Man, there's a million ways to do this thing. It's not a science. In fact, think how boring it would be if there was here's exactly how you do it, and everybody did it the same way, and then the only difference was who adhered more strictly to the rules.
Yeah.
You know, like, that would be...
Yeah.
It wouldn't be rock and roll.
Yeah. So then Florence.
Gosh, and then Florence, I meant to... Right.
Yeah, so Florence... she's got a dance background. She's a tall and commanding presence. people were holding up signs about how she's like their priestess or she's like a queen or
she's
a
got
mystic
a very
witch.
Stevie Nicks.
She's kind of like
mythical,
the modern day Stevie.
yeah.
There's the backdrop or the stage design was like a whole bunch of chandeliers with like stuff draped on them, so they looked all like spider webby. So there were a whole bunch of them behind her creating a backdrop, and then there were a whole bunch at an angle above her. Mm-hmm. And that felt very much like her brand. You know, she's wearing a flowy dress with tons and tons of lace, and it sparkled, and it was great to dance in. And so she was constantly moving, except when she was commanding the audience, you know, arms up, like super command, like this entire room is mine. And they were with her. There's a cult. Obviously, they're totally bought in, and she commanded them. My one critique from a stage performance perspective is she would run across the stage to the far corner and spend less than a half a second there before she would leave. So she was like going to see these people who were front row, just not front and center.
Right.
And she would like, boom, and she was like, as soon as she got there, she was gone. And then she would run over to the far end of the other stage, at the other side of the stage. Again, people front row seats, just not front and center. But she wouldn't spend a half a second there. I mean, she would just like hit the spot and then run back. And I was like, oh, give those people some of your presence.
Yeah.
Because the people front and center, I mean, she was down in them. She came down off the stage and was like standing on the barricades. She even once ran into the GA area and was like over by...
That is terrifying. That is so scary. I would not.
You should talk a little bit about some experiences you've had. But
yeah.
Security was on her. I mean, they were like in front of her, behind her, beside her. They were like ready to grab people if they were going to touch her inappropriately or do anything. But she was in her tribe, and it was so powerful to see. I'm not in her tribe. I really like her. I really enjoyed the show, but I wasn't quite
I love
taken
her.
away most of the time.
I didn't feel like going to the show. But,
not your kind of thing. But some of the more effective stuff that I thought she did was kind of song breakdowns where she would talk to the audience. There were some really powerful things she did. I love noting this stuff because I was like, I want to steal these and borrow, like translate them to our students or to us.
Learn them. Yeah.
She would break down a song and like talk to the audience. And at one point, like earlier on, she was like, welcome to all of you who have, those of you who are like seeing their 10th or 15th show, and a bunch of people, were like, yeah. She's like, wow, really? And those of you who are coming to your second show, and a bunch of people yelled. And those of you who are here for the very first time, we welcome you. And a bunch of people, wah. And then she's like, and for those of you who are accompanying someone who got taken along on this ride or are chaperoning somebody, we welcome you too. And you may be going, what is this? Is this a cult? Well, yes, it is. Or something like that. She was like, yes, we do some very weird things here. But I can tell you my piece of advice is if you just do everything I say and just go with it, it will all be okay. And she was really bringing in all the layers of the audience, the diehards who follow her around, the people who love her shows but just come when she's in town, the people who didn't want to be here anyway, but they got like the lady next to me and her daughter.
Yeah.
She brought everybody together, and then she had them all dance. And that's the first time I got up and was like, she's like, now I want everyone to stand up. I see you in the back there. I see you on the sides there. I want you all to stand up, and we're going to dance. And so this is like over a simmering beat the whole time. And then we launch into the thing. And the whole room, like the whole place is arms in the air. That's when I lost my phone.
That's you found your phone. But
I found it, but not till the end.
Yeah. That's classic stuff, man. There's so much to digest there. That's... I was on a call with a Zoom call with someone in another country this week.
Which one was that? Which country? Was it Ireland?
No, I'm sorry.
Was it Paris?
I'm wrong. They were in Miami. That's not another country.
Oh, okay.
Getting mixed up.
Anyway.
It was something that just came out of my mouth when we were spitballing, and I was like, man, maybe there's something to that. I mentioned the other week that thing about turning a room full of however many people into one thing, and we were kind of even done. We were just chit-chatting and talking about making fans, and I was thinking out loud and said, maybe that is how you make fans. Because there's this weird mystery of, like, how do you make fans? Like, there's all these ways you could tell people about your band. There's all these ways you could have people hear the music on the radio or blah, 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 blah. But, like, how do those people become fans? Who
Become
want
part
to,
of your tribe. They're in.
And they want to see it again, and they want to tell people about it and whatever. And being in the room when they take... When the performer takes that room and turns that room of people into a crowd, that's something that makes fans. Like,
and I was thinking about, like, just going and playing your album. Like, a lot of people would rather stay home and hear it more clearly and be more comfortable and not spend the money. And so a live experience, I think, has to offer something in addition. It has to be special. There has to be, you have to break open the songs, or you have to create tribal moments somehow. Otherwise, why go?
And pulling all the people in. I mean, in fact, that's a very hard place to be in. Not that I've been in it very much or at all, but it's a very hard place to be in where, like, do you cater to the hardcores who've seen it a million times and they maybe want to hear the real deep cuts or the whatever that they haven't seen. But how do you can't just cater to them and bore everybody else.
Right.
You also can't hit the crowd like you're hitting a crowd that doesn't know who you are, because granted, maybe some of them don't, but most of them do. Like, that's a balancing act. That's hearing about how she recognized that and addressed that is really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, she really brought people together. And then there was another thing she did. She kind of laid some groundwork for something that I don't know if she decided at the end or if it was planned out. But more than once, she talked about how great the audience was. Now, that's pretty stock. But she did it in a way that made it seem like she was genuinely surprised. Like, like, you guys are not, she didn't say, like, oh, you guys are such a great audience. Wow. She was like, you guys... you're blowing me, like, you guys are really giving me some joy, or whatever the phrase was. She was surprised by how great the audience was, and she just let us know that. And that laid some groundwork for the encore. So show ends, but, lights don't come up because it's not actually over yet.
Yeah.
She comes back out after a few minutes, and she spoke at length about a song that she has refused to sing for 10 years. She hasn't performed it on stage in 10 years because she hates it for this reason and that reason. She wrote it when she was hungover, blah, blah, blah. She just doesn't want that song to be listened to, or she can't, whatever, hates it. But that's the song people keep listening to. And she's like, you guys just won't let it go. And what I realized is when you create something out of your shame or your pain or, the dark side of yourself, and you put it out in the world and people take it and they experience it and it does some good for them, and then it comes back to you with this joy and generosity. She's like, it's amazing that what you've done for me. And oh my gosh, people's hearts were just like, everyone was like, oh my God. But it was so real. She was making it very real. And she said, and so since you guys have given me such an amazing night, and she laid this groundwork by talking about, not just saying you guys are awesome, but like talking about how great we were and how much she looked forward to it. Right. And it was, such a big room and blah, blah. She said, I'm going to sing this song for you guys for the first time in 10 years. And it was like, oh my gosh, we deserve that. Like, it was this energy, like, exchange, like, wow. All were one. So it was very powerful. Then she did a couple more songs ending with Shake It Off, which I thought would be, since I had.
Yeah, a little bit. I got the thing. I got the thing. I saw the circle get completed. Yeah, it always does it to me.
I know.
Yeah, I can't help it.
So Shake It Off was a great way to walk out. Shake it off, shake it off, shake it off, shake it off. Ooh, whoa. That was just a wonderful note to end on. And so
that is a great note to end on. Where did she put Ship to Wreck?
It was like 3 or so. It was really early on.
Nice.
It really.
Yeah, right.
It like
huge hit. Yeah. And one of my favorite
I love
songs
that song.
by anybody. I love Ship to Wreck.
Yeah.
It's a genius. I've studied that song.
And Dog Days was maybe 6, somewhere around 6 to 9. I didn't really take notes or anything, but.
And that's sort of the opposite. And granted, Florence probably has more big hits, but that's the opposite of, just to reference the last show we were at, where they were backloading the hits.
Right. She kind of sprinkled them throughout.
Yeah. Yeah, something to think about both ways. Well, that's great. I mean, that's amazing to hear about. There's so much to think about there. I still say, walking into a crowd. That's insane.
Oh, walking into a crowd.
That's insane.
Why don't you talk about that?
I don't need to talk about that. I just, like, and Florence's crowd maybe is different. I just know from being in crowds and stuff. I mean, like, you know, not that it happens every time or even often, but, you know, people will take swings at you just because there's some weird human nature thing where, like, you're the monkey on a higher branch and they're the monkey on the lower branch, and if they get a chance to take a swing at you, they're going to. I mean, I've been hit a dozen times out of nowhere, you know, like...
It's crazy.
It doesn't mean anything. They're not even really trying to start a fight. It's just, like, I just want to punch the guy who was on stage. Yeah.
Maybe I'll get as famous as him as if I punch him.
I don't know what the thing is, but you got to watch out for it. And, yeah, walking into a crowd, you were saying, like, security was right there, but at the same time, I'm like, but I don't have a great relationship. I won't tell the story. I have been dragged off stage a couple of times and kind of like by crowds.
Oh my gosh.
Or sort of mobbed. I will tell one short story. I was an idiot and I jumped up, not during the show, but right after. And I jumped up on the barricade and went to jump off the barricade into the crowd. And actually what I was attempting to do was jump over, because we just got done and some people, and there was a large amount of people shoved up to the front, and I was hoping to kind of jump past them and then be in the crowd. And as I was jumping, a bouncer, a security person, who probably thought he was helping, caught me by the back of the belt. And then so I fell down across the barricade with him holding on to me and holding me basically just barely off the ground. I mean, my hands could touch the ground, but he still had a hold of my belt, and he was sort of trying to pull me up. And the crowd sort of mobbed at me, and it wasn't a lot of fun. I got both lips busted and bloody nose, just people's knees.
Oh my
as they were
God.
like crushing in on me, and their just knees were hitting me in the face.
Oh my gosh!
Someone pulled off my shirt. It's like all covered in scratch marks and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
wasn't super fun. And so I've always been cautious of crowds.
Yeah.
I mean, no one was trying to hurt me. No one was trying. It was just it was just like a push towards, people grabbing at you. No one was intentionally hurting you. They were just grabbing at you. Don't get me wrong. Very long time ago, my life is not like that these days. Certainly not getting mobbed. But it was my own fault. I did jump, and probably shouldn't have. But anyway, that's why when I hear somebody walking into a crowd, I'm like, oh my God. And you're way more famous than I was.
Right. But, it's a room of flower children and girls wearing like flower headbands. And
as I said, it's a different crowd.
Yeah. Different energy.
Yeah, so that was the week.
It was a pretty full week.
Last night, stayed at the studio late. I had kind of a long day. Made longer by the fact that did the demolition for renovating our kitchen this weekend. So that was most of Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then I went and taught a class and did a little studio work. And then Sunday finished up Cody's EP that will be out November 6th. We have a show at Niecy's. It's going to be his CD release party for the new CD Colorado, which is named Colorado because it features a song called Colorado, featuring... obviously me producing, and I played bass on that, and drums, and Josh Blackburn on guitar, who, if you haven't heard Josh Blackburn, do yourself a favor, he's a monster guitar player, and of course Hazel Miller, who, at least for Colorado people, is, household name. Yeah. And so it's Josh and Cody and Hazel on the song Colorado, and that album's coming out November 6th. Didn't mean to. I slid right into a plug. I didn't mean to plug it. Just I went right into it.
Pre-order your copy today.
Yeah, instinct took over there. Sorry, guys. Anyway, finished the EP for Cody, which was that's been months and months of work. coming. Retracked and retracked vocals and guitars, and just we've really worked our way through this material to get it as good as we can. And it's some new stuff, and Cody's doing a cool thing where it's 5 or 6 new songs and then a handful of older songs that have never actually been released on CD. Either they were singles, or one of them is one of his band Kindred's singles from the early 2000s when they were doing the big Colorado circuit, and it had never it had been recorded, and it was a big deal live, but I don't think they ever put it out on a disc. So it's going to be a cool record, and I'm plugging again. I can't stop doing it.
How are we doing on time?
We're 4.5 over.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
Anyway, I guess we can cut it. Thanks for sharing all that stuff about Florence. That was
yeah. I'm loving going to all these concerts. We've got Phoenix coming up next Monday.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I love Phoenix. And I've never been in the Mission Ballroom.
I can't believe it.
No,
it's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, shows are great.
Yeah,
things are going. New kitchen coming someday.
It sounds a little weird in here to me because
it's echoing definitely differently.
I mean, the kitchen's around the corner from here, but still there's some weird hollow echo coming from in there because there's nothing in that room except a stove.
Yeah,
right now.
Pulled out all the cabinets.
Yeah,
bare floors.
It's that empty house sound.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we really appreciate whoever is still listening to this.
Yeah. Come on our show. We'll give you lots of exposure.
Come on our show. You'll get lots of exposure. Okay, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week, whether you like it or not.
Bye.